9 o'clock. Time to fire this thing up. Hope everybody's well. That's what I want. Okay. Yeah. Today we're going to chat with my buddy Steve Rasco as soon as he shows up. I'm going to talk about some bees. He's actually been an instructor at SAIT for years. What's up, Ash? Learned a few things this week. I learned how to flip my camera around so that my logo is the right way. Always be learning. Couple of notes before we get into it. On the bottom right corner is a arrow. If you want to send this and notify some people that might want to watch this. Morning, fellas. Ship it off to them. The other point is it's super hard or not hard. It's difficult for me to have a conversation, a meaningful conversation, and see the comments as we're talking. So you'll notice that just to the next, to the arrow button is a question mark with a little bubble. If you type in a question there, then it puts a little notification so that I can see that you actually have a legitimate question and they're not just, beacon off for the hell of it. What's up, Al? How's it going? So yeah, just a refresher, if you press the arrow button, you can send that to people that you think might want to be part of this or watch this. As you know, on Monday morning, the audio goes to Spotify and to Google. The whole video goes to our YouTube channel, which is obviously Baker Plumbing on YouTube. It's Barn Banter on Spotify and Google. And I'm still trying to figure out the Apple. It's being difficult. Typical Apple. Should I not cause trouble in the chat? By all means, I honestly, I can't follow the chat and the conversation. So Steve, you have to request to join. I see you're in here. What happens? I have no request to join. So Steve, at the bottom of the corner, right next to the add a comment, you'll see a little plus with the, oh, he's done it.
Minute for this to tie in. Yeah. Is he gonna do it? His favorite joke to me. I've known Steve for probably 18 years now. We actually met playing senior men's basketball back in the day. Steve, you got to accept my request, Chachi. I don't know. Go live with yes. Steven, it said you're unable to join. Try it again. Hang on. This is our first. There we go. I sent you an invite. Ah!
I'm here.
You shaved your beard. What the hell?
I did.
Yeah.
Had to join the real world again, Bob.
Oh, what? I'm living out with the Hutterites or what, man?
Yeah, trying to expand my operations. So
Try not to look so scary.
exactly.
Yeah, well, it didn't work.
There's that love that I'm missing from my life every day.
I know, man. How are you, brother?
I'm doing very well on a Sunday morning, and yourself?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Uh, why don't you tell everybody why you're here, Steve? Who are you?
Who am I?
Who am I? It's not an existential question, so let's not get into that stuff. Like just the resume stuff.
Just resume stuff. Well, I heard part of what you were saying about how we met. We did meet playing senior men's basketball, and the way that I can tell the number of years was because it was when your youngest was born. Julie was carrying her into the gym. She was just born. So I think that's 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah, she's gonna turn 15 in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
So we played. Always tell people back in our primes when we should have been prepping for our NBA careers, but other than the fact that we couldn't shoot, we were slow, we disliked playing defense, and we literally could not jump. We had prime NBA careers on our resume.
Listen, the only one that I'll admit to is not being able to jump. That's it. It's the only one.
Or tell time.
Or tell time. Yeah, no, I'm late for everything. There's no doubt about that. And it's the scout's fault. You know it. If I had the right scout there, I'd be in the NBA right now.
Exactly.
Well, I'd be retired.
Well,
kind of doing the Shaq thing.
Exactly.
Just
I'm still waiting for somebody just to give me a cool $500,000 just to keep a seat at the end of the bench warm for somebody. I can bring them towels, bring them a little Gatorade, maybe dab the sweat off their forehead. That would be perfectly fine by me. But
every NBA team's got 4 of those dudes. You don't know who they are, and they make the league minimum doing their thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So you want to know a little bit about my resume. So obviously I've been in the trades for probably as long as you, 30 years. I started in 92. I'm not in the glorious plumbing trade or the ever-mentioned sparkles trade. I'm actually a carpenter by trade. Got my ticket at SAIT, where after many years I ended up teaching. And that has all come to an acrimonious split, and I'm sure we'll get to that at some point later down the road.
Yes, we will.
And did some teaching in junior high and senior high, which I quite enjoyed, and I'm contemplating maybe going back to junior high to do some stuff. Ran my own renovation business it's still on the go now. And grew up on a farm, and as you well know, got back into a little bit of agricultural stuff probably 4 years ago with the bees, and trying to figure out how I can make that more of my full-time gig instead of bastardizing wood on a daily basis.
Okay, so you mentioned that you're thinking about going back to teaching. How do you do that if you're a carpenter?
Well, the schools, especially high schools, there's a drastic shortage right now of trades teachers. They're eliminating trades programs left, right, and center just because they don't have qualified people to go in and teach. And when I was in the high school, 15 years ago, they were just pulling in language arts teachers, science teachers, social studies teachers just to put bodies in there to teach shop. Now, nothing against those people, because they literally didn't have much choice. It was just a teaching assignment they were given, and they were going in trying to do their best. But as well as anybody else that, in order to effectively teach those programs, you need to have some experience, some background knowledge, some skills, not only from a safety point of view, but from a how do we do this properly point of view. And there's a lot of people in there doing things that I think inherently are ridiculously dangerous with young people. And it's the age-old story. You raise concerns about stuff like that, and your concerns just get swept to the side because administration's just like, no, they're doing what we want them to do. And in my opinion, it's wrong. And it's one of the reasons that I ended up leaving that aspect of teaching was there's just too much chance, especially in woodworking with all the big power tools you use, for young people to really get injured. And
Yeah.
I could not fathom having that on my conscience. And sadly, the school that I left, and I'm not going to name it just for sake of not naming it, being that guy, a girl ended up taking a piece of wood, kicked back off a table saw, hit her in the cheek, and split her open from her ear to the corner of her mouth. So,
in high school.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, the other side of that is I don't think administration really understands what it takes to run a trades program in the school, because they expect the teacher to be everything. You not only have to teach, organize materials, but they want you to be the machine tech too. So if a bandsaw or a lathe or a table saw breaks down, they want you to figure out how to fix it. Now, I've been around a lot of tools just like you. Yeah, I can fix things, but am I qualified to do it where others are going to be using it and potentially be injured in it? No, that's where I have to back off a bit and just say, I think I'm going to pass off that liability to somebody who, again, has a ticket or has a bunch more experience in repairing tools.
Yeah. Yep. It's one thing to do it yourself, right? And take your own risk with your own tools, but
Exactly.
if you're setting something up for the newbies that have zero experience, that's a different ballgame, right?
Well, and putting not only that, but I quite often had 30, 32 kids in a class.
Yeah.
So I'm like an owl. My head is just spinning around on a swivel trying to make sure everybody leaves at the end of the day with all their fingers on their hands. And that's a big responsibility to have. You get pretty stressed out about it.
How long did you do that for?
2 years, and then that was enough.
That was enough?
Yeah.
After it got gory?
Well, thankfully nobody got injured on my watch, but just the politics and the BS that went around with it is just like, I can make less money and be less stressed out doing other things, so I think I'm going to go do that.
The reason I'm laughing is because I've known Steve for a long time, and so we're going to get into that in a second. We don't want
to. We've known each other for a long time.
Oh, hang on. Somebody actually used the question box.
Uh-oh.
How long were you in the trade before you got into teaching? He's toying with the idea of doing it himself.
I was in the trades 10 years. So I started in 92, and then I went back. I did a degree, an undergrad degree, before I got into the trades, because I was trying to join the police force, but that didn't work out. There's a long trail of things in my life that didn't work out. It's probably bigger than the list of things that have worked out. So, and
that's life, isn't it?
Exactly. Yep. And this friend of mine at the time said, well, you didn't get in, so why don't you just come work for me? And he had a little renovation company and said, come work for me for 3-4 weeks till you figure out what you're going to do. And that's been the longest 3 or 4 weeks of my life, because that was September 4th, 1992. And then I went back and did an after degree, a 2-year education after degree in 2001.
There you go.
So, yeah, if you've got an interest there, the school system is dying for tradespeople to go there and teach to the next generation, because everything is university focused.
Yeah. Yep.
And I blame part of that on society. I think society has this big, for whatever you want to call it, a big dislike or a negative view of people that go into the trades. And I think it's wholly misplaced.
It's absolute stigma, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it has been for 50
Forever.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
I I think a lot of society views us tradespeople as the people that, we dropped out in grade 8. We've got alcohol problems, substance abuse problems. We go home and beat our dogs and our wives and our kids. And really, tradespeople are some of the smartest people I've met in my life.
Yep.
The things that they can fix and the way that they can look at problems and come up with solutions. There are some brilliant people in the world that do not get enough credit simply because they don't have a couple letters after their name. And I've seen both sides. I've been to university and I've been to trade school. I think trade school is by far way more practical than university at this point. Simply because what you learn in school, you can actually put into practice right away, whether you're
immediately, right?
Yeah, you've seen it, and maybe it's a couple years down the road before you encounter a problem like that. But you're like, oh yeah, I read about this or I saw this in school, did a little bit about it, and it gives you a bit of a head start about how to solve some of those problems. But don't get me wrong, if kids have an interest to go to university, by all means, go to university and study what you want in university. But I don't think university is the be-all and end-all for young people.
No, in my experience, university is for those that know what they want to be. You want to be an engineer, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, accountant, whatever that dream is, that's where you need to go and follow that path. But if you're just going there to find yourself and find out what you want to do, there's far better avenues to go. So do you have some suggestions on who to talk to? Is it principals or higher up than that?
Talk to about what, Bobby?
About getting into teaching in high schools or junior highs.
Yeah, I'd say start at go to your local school. Go talk to your principal or your assistant principal and just say, hey, what's happening in the school district with regards to trades programs in the schools? Where are they located? If you can find a school with a shop program, go in and talk to that teacher and start picking their brains, because it's kind of like they're the boots on the ground and they're the ones that are going to know all the ins and outs of, this is what we're looking for and this is what's been happening to the programs over the years. And talk to the university specifically to see if there is a teaching program specifically dedicated to what we used to call industrial arts. Just don't go into a traditional teaching program, because that's not going to give you, I think, the background skills and knowledge to teach shop programs. You want that specific IA program. And they used to have one in Alberta at the University of Alberta, but I think they got rid of it about 15 years ago because they deemed that there wasn't a big enough demand for people to go there, which I think is a shame. I think it's a shame.
I agree. Yep. I don't know how you fix it. I mean, we talk about that all the time. You and I talk about it in groups on social media, on how you best represent and promote the trades. And the only conclusion we come to is just do your best work out there, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we really need to get a movement going like Mike Rowe has going in the States. Like, he's really promoting the trades down there, and it's generating a lot of attention and a lot of traction. I think we need to generate to some similar programs, or you or I need to reach out to Mike Rowe and just say, hey, how do you expand your program into Canada? Because that's what we need to do to, get more, and just get more young people convinced that, it's okay to go in the trades. It's okay to be in the trades. Don't view going into the trades as, I'm failing in life. It's not failing, man. Like, you're moving down this beautiful road where develop these skills. And, my oldest son, he's a perfect example. So he finished his welding ticket last year.
Yeah.
but he's not sure that he wants to continue welding. He's not sure if that's his passion. And we've talked about it endlessly, and I'm like, that's okay. But you have that piece of paper, so if something happens down the road and you ever need to go and generate some income or have a job, now you can go weld. And you get paid at a journeyman welder's rate. So you're not making 18 or 19 bucks an hour. Now you're going to make 40, 45 bucks an hour. And it's all because you took some time, you got that education. They'll never take that piece of paper away from you. You're always a Red Seal journeyman welder. And the kid can weld. Like, I look at it and go, holy dynamite. Like, I wish I knew how to weld like that. And now, when I need stuff for the bee business, guess who I call to do some welding for me?
Clearly, and you clearly pay him full rate for that, right?
Absolutely.
Or just dinner. Good man.
Yeah.
So
3 square meals a day is what we pay around here.
You're on the same system I am, Steve. So just the difference, part of the differences between the apprenticeship programs in Canada and the States. States are just some weird roughshod. Every state does their own thing. Whereas Canada, like you said, once you get your Red Seal, you're done.
Yep.
There's nobody can take that from you unless you do something illegal with it. And one of the differences is there's not a lot of continuing education up here. That's sort of left to each individual to their own devices.
Yep.
Which we highly recommend. But once you've got it, like it's yours forever.
Exactly.
And so I would agree with that. With that you can, you can spend 4 or 5 years and get that skill, and it's yours forever. Like, what have you done with your framing? Carpentry isn't necessarily it's a Red Seal trade, but most of the builders and carpenters I know they don't take it.
No.
Right? Like it's the only one that's sort of outside the bubble for whatever reason, right?
Well, for whatever reason, years ago, the provincial government decided to, for lack of a better word, deregulate carpentry, cabinet making, a couple other trades. So in order, and this is the one bone of contention, I don't agree with this at all, that plumbers, in order to call yourself a plumber, you have to go get your ticket. To call yourself an electrician, you have to go get a ticket. To be a auto mechanic, you have to go get your ticket. But for the people that build the structure of the building that holds up the plumbing, the electrical, everything else, you can just pull anybody off the street that has a tool belt and a tape measure, and they can call themselves a carpenter. And from day one, I wholeheartedly disagreed with it. I don't see the reasoning behind it, simply because I think it's as important as what you and the electricians and, the pipe fitters, the auto mechanics, I think it falls under the same category as that. But yeah, they deregulated it, and it leads to a lot of problems in my business because, people build their aunts or their uncles a deck or a fence, and they're like, oh, I can be a general contractor. So they go plunk down their $176 at City Hall and go buy a tape measure and a framing square and a circular saw, and then, yep, I'm a general contractor.
Yep.
And to me, it's wrong.
It causes all sorts of, I won't lie to you, contention even on our end of things, because they're the ones that, like, you need to do it like this and you need to do it like that. I'm like, dude, no, that's not how we're doing this. No, I'm the general, so you have to listen to me. I'm like, you're a moron, so I'm not gonna. No.
Well, and the other thing on top of that, Bob, even like when you're in school, there is such a divide, and I don't know how it is in the plumbing side of things, but in the carpentry side of things, really we could have 2 streams of school for the carpenters, one for the commercial side and one for the residential side. Because the commercial guys, all they want to do typically is they want to build high rises, warehouses. They're dealing a lot with concrete and formwork. They don't have an interest in, hanging doors or finishing or framing a house. And then on the flip side of that, you got the residential folks that all they want to do is homes, maybe custom homes, maybe new homes, maybe renovations. And really, we need to split that up in school somehow. But those suggestions just fall on deaf ears with the government, and ultimately, it's in their hands to make the changes. But they're, as you well know, the government is slow to move on anything that's important to the people that pay the taxes. So.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
And if I keep bad mouthing the government, I'm sure my bank account's going to get frozen.
Frozen.
I'll have a policeman here with a baton beating me on my front lawn.
Because you're a dissident, Steve.
I'm
a
dissident in Ceausescu's regime today.
Yeah, it's going to be a short-lived regime, but we actually now live in the Canadian regime.
Exactly.
So tell us what you've done with your, we talk about just the skills that you pick up as a tradesman that earn you a living and provide for your family, but you've picked up a pretty interesting hobby along the way as well.
I did. So I've always had this creative side to me where just almost like an artist. What can you do with wood to make it look really creative? And it started out with, I got into photography, so I'd do a bunch of pictures and then build my own picture frames and frame them and build little trinkets. And then probably 8 years ago, can't remember who invited me down, but I went down to a meeting of the Calgary Wood Turning Club and just sat in and saw all the kind of possibilities that could happen there, and took a bunch of classes, and then ended up starting this little side wooden art business where making all these custom, bizarre, unique, one-of-a-kind wood-turned items, which, has been a savior in a lot of ways because you go and you do a renovation, all the rooms are square or rectangle, and you put up 2x4s and you put up drywall, and after a while, 30 years of doing it, it gets kind of monotonous at times. So to have this creative outlet where you can go and build some funky things, or people say, hey, just like you've been a loyal customer to that, built a cutting board for your daughter, and I think it was last year, a Mother's Day gift for Julie, and so I'm expressing myself that way, and I probably have 150-year supply of wood inside my shop right now. That
I've seen it.
You've seen the carnage, and
you've actually sold it. It's actually been on display in art galleries and stuff, right?
It has. There's still some on display out in a little gallery out in Canmore, and there was a little shop just down around the corner where they did just put local artists' work up on display. So I had some stuff in there, and actually that business closed, and then a local lady in the neighborhood, she sells produce, apples, oranges, everything, trying to sell local stuff. And I approached her last year just saying, hey, do you think I could put some fruit bowls, usable fruit bowls and stuff? And she agreed to it. And to my surprise, stuff is being selling at the produce store. So, you don't sell a lot. By no means am I going to retire on that, but it's nice. It's nice to have an outlet out there and, make stuff for people and make stuff for myself, and fill up the Tupperware boxes in the basement full of bowls that will be there upon my death when I leave this earth. And
having sifted through the wreckage of my own parents' mortal remains, just the remains. Yeah, that's a daunting, a fantastic, sad, wonderful task to so that's what your kids have to look forward to.
Well, there's some pieces that I've made that were like, one of the first pieces I made that I can't part with, I made for the Calgary Stampede Woodworking Show to celebrate Canada's 150th birthday. And it was kind of a collaboration between myself and another artist of mine. She hand cut me a Canadian maple leaf to put in the bottom of a bowl under epoxy, and we put it in. And, there's artists from all over the world that submit stuff to this, and you put it in more probably to make yourself feel good. And then, you get a phone call when Stampede's over that your piece placed third. And you're like, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, you get a ribbon, you get a whopping $120.
Yes.
So, and then...
but it's more than that, right? Like it's whatever we want to call it these days, your mental and emotional well-being to be able to...
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, just on top of that story, I think it was 2 years after that, the Stampede. And because I'm a past winner, I always get these emails from them about their upcoming contest. So they had an open contest just to make a birdhouse. And I'm like, okay, And then my mind starts going, well, how funky can this birdhouse get? Like how crazy can you get with the birdhouse? And you know me well enough that when the Ukrainian blood gets flowing, things get pretty wild. So
Stevie's Ukrainian, by the way. I don't know if that's a racial slur these days, but probably.
Us Ukrainians are too slow to even recognize if it was a racial slur. So
that's why I have to say it to your face repeatedly. That's
and write it down and draw me a map. So,
yeah, you're building your birdhouse.
So this birdhouse, and again, trying to incorporate pieces from my past. So I wanted to do it out of reclaimed barnwood. So I built a 12-sided birdhouse out of reclaimed barnwood. I cut in 4 stained glass windows into it. I put it on a deck. I had a veranda around it. I put up a handrail, and just to reuse some of the materials in my shop, I used some saved number 10 copper wire for all the handrails and the spindles. And then I built a solid copper hand textured roof for it. And it took me
So that's where your $120 for your winnings went to, isn't your birdhouse times 5?
Yeah, times 5. Let's just say the birdhouse was a massive money losing venture. I think the sheet copper on the roof alone was like $225.
I was gonna say.
And then I mounted it on this big piece of driftwood that I had, and I put it in, and it ended up winning, and I won a whopping $175. So the art business is still in the red.
You just got to do, what's it called? You got to do one of those. I forget the name now. One of those digital images of it and sell it for like $57 million. What do they call those things? It's the newest thing. NFT.
NFT, yeah.
Yeah. Take a picture of it, Stevie, and put a digital code into it, and then sell it to some meathead in California for millions upon millions of dollars.
I'll put it on my to-do list.
Do it. All right. What got you into the insect business?
What got me into the insect business? Well, that's an easy one. I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a farm north of Edmonton and spent all my summers on my grandparents' dairy farm. So I've always been in an ag environment around animals, chickens, cows, horses, pigs. Moved to the city, and I've never fully committed to being in the city. My heart is in the country, and always trying to think of how can I get back to the country. And got introduced to the whole beekeeping thing 3-4 years ago, and just decided, yeah, that might be an avenue that can get me back into the country. And as you know, we both know the same person that kind of you're buying bees from, kind of got my feet wet in the whole business, and got through the first year with, out of the 6 hives that we started with, 1 survived, and then we just decided that we were going to go both feet into the hot water, and jumped on it and grew the business. And yeah, we're trying to angle to make that our full-time occupation here in the next 2 years.
And so you started with 6. Stevie's far more successful at it than I am. And how many hives do you have now?
As of last Sunday, we had 43 still on the go.
Oh, good.
So
it's minus 30 out there today. So
yeah. So we got that one through our winter the first year, and then we bought 16 from a retired beekeeper in Saskatchewan, brought them back, and the 16 within about 6 weeks tripled. We had 48, 49 hives going after about 6 weeks, which they grew way faster than we had anticipated. So we were always feeling like we were behind the 8 ball. We were playing catch up that whole summer with them, and just not enough resources, not understanding how much time it took. And then with the drought last year, it was seemed to be a never-ending supply of honey that they were bringing in. And again, we were so naive. We thought, oh yeah, you'll get 500-600 pounds, 700 pounds of honey. Well, put a 0 on the end of that.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Those buggers are amazing.
So our final total last year was 7,200 pounds of honey. So if anybody out there in internet land or Instagram land needs honey, I know this guy that still has lots of honey for sale.
Yeah, it's been an amazing, because we started at the same time.
Yep.
And it's been, for me, it's literally just been, I don't have really any of the aspirations that you've just outlined. You're just doing it for fun, but it's been a fascinating journey to watch those things go from 1 hive to, what I ended up with 16 last year. Who knows how many I'll end up with over winter, but just marvels of nature doing their thing.
They are. They're. I've never seen an animal as smart as what they are, because we always, as beekeepers, we always seem to be guessing as to what's going on in the hive and what it is exactly they need. And you have to be really in tune with the hives to see what's going on, and to make sure that they're healthy, and to make sure that they have everything that you think they need. And it's you're always learning. Like I tell people a little bit about what we're doing, and they're like, oh, you know so much about bees. And really, if the knowledge of bees is like a cup, I think I maybe have a couple grains of sand in that cup, and there is just so much to learn. And I'm really thankful, because the gentleman that we bought bees from in Saskatchewan, he's been an awesome resource for us. We can call him or text him pretty much at will, and if he's able to, he'll talk to us, and he'll respond to our text and just say, well, this is what I think I would do in that situation. And the last 4 weeks, we've actually talked on the phone one night a week for about an hour and a half, just so I can keep picking his brain about he's been doing it for 57 years, and he's just this wealth of knowledge. So I'm trying to pick his brain and learn from him as much as I can. And, some of the things that I never would have thought of, he says, oh, no, you want to consider this or consider that. And it's a little bit different because their climate's a little bit different. Like, he hasn't got any of the warm spells that we've got with our Chinooks. I don't think they've had any temperatures above zero since end of November, and they've got about 2.5 feet of snow there already.
Yeah.
And I sent him a picture last week because my bees were out flying. I sent him a video of my bees flying, and he said, "Is that from the summer?" And I said, "No, that's from like an hour ago."
The same one you sent me?
Yep.
Yeah, everywhere, which is fantastic.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of things I can learn, but climate-wise, it's a little bit different because our bees, with all that activity in the last month of the warm weather, they've been burning up lots of resources inside the hive, and so we have to do things a little bit differently than he would do up in northeast Saskatchewan. But, it's good just to keep your mind thinking and keep addressing them, and we'll see how they get through this next cold spell. But they were definitely, I think if the cold spell wouldn't have showed up, they would have started producing brood, which is obviously young bees. I think they were on that path,
getting there.
Yep. So
well, let's hope this next week is not too traumatic for them or for mine, and we'll see how it all. That's the beauty, right? You just sort of, there's nothing you can do. You prep and you plan a little bit, and then you just watch.
Yep.
Like there's
and
respond accordingly, I guess.
Yeah, respond accordingly. And I think like right now, once I'm done talking to you, I'm into the garage and we're prepping a bunch of parts and pieces that we know we're going to need in the spring because we're planning on a bit of an expansion again. So hopefully, maybe get up to 75 or 80 hives this summer, and then see where that takes us, and then continue that growth down the road. And if we can pay off the money we owe to the bank, great. If not, well, hopefully they can still wait.
Hopefully you can hide long enough.
Exactly. Or maybe they'll freeze that account for me.
All right, well, we're 45 minutes into this thing. Bees are fantastic. Yeah. Let's so tell everybody about your pandemic experience at our local trade college.
Yes, let's keep it at that. We won't name names. No. At that aforementioned trade school. Yeah, it's been a bit of an acrimonious relationship. As another friend that I got to know who's kind of in a similar boat, he said, yeah, we're both in abusive relationships with this institution right now. Yeah. So when the pandemic started, my program, and I'll just speak about the carpentry program, we didn't have any of our content or curriculum or tests, anything. Nothing was set up for an online environment. So I got tasked for the first 6 weeks of the pandemic in 2020 to transfer all of our paper copied documents, resources, tests, everything into this program that the school used. So I did that full time for 6 weeks, and then when that 6 weeks was up, I still wasn't finished, but they came to me and said, we're laying you off. Even though you're not finished, we're laying you off. So I got laid off for 4.5 months when it started, which, to be honest, it wasn't a bad thing because I went and took that 4.5 months and I was a beekeeper full time. So it was actually good. And then when the end of the summer came, they called me the day before school started and said, hey, school's starting tomorrow. We want to hire you back. We're going to offer you a contract. You have to sign it in the next hour. And of course, I was in the middle of the bee yard. So I had to rush home, print this paper off and sign it. And I'll admit it was ridiculously stressful because we still weren't ready to be in an online format. I hadn't finished moving everything.
Did anybody continue your efforts after they laid you off?
Nope.
Nope, just sat there.
It just sat there. because why would all the people who have full-time tenured positions actually do anything to improve the program?
You said that with as little poison as possible. Nice job, Steve.
I did, you know. So yeah.
So you're back. This is September 2020.
September 2020. I'm back the day before school starts, so you don't even have any time to prep.
Yep.
And yeah, the morning shows up, and you're just basically flying by the seat of your pants. You're trying to. Well, let me back that up. Now we're in a fully online environment, which the school has not provided any resources for me to teach. So all I have at my disposal is the laptop. So they won't provide me with a webcam. They won't provide me with microphones. They won't provide me with anything. So, you know, it was kind of like going back to public school teaching, where if you needed pencils and paper, you went and you bought it out of your own pocket because that's what you needed in order to keep the classes going. So borrowed a mic stand from a friend of mine, found a program online where I could convert my iPhone into a webcam, you know, just did all this stuff so that I could be up and running. And one of the classes I had to teach was online drafting. Hand drafting, not CAD, but hand drafting.
Right.
So yeah, you're trying to figure out, well, how do I get this camera so I can show students how to hold pencils properly, how to use the drawing tools properly. You know, it was the first time I really had used Zoom, so you're trying to figure out that whole program. So I was probably learning as much as the students. And I felt bad for the students because, you know, there were lots of glitches. There were a ton of glitches, and I apologize to the students all the time. And quite often, if a lesson didn't go as I thought it would, I would re-invite them back in the evening on my own time to reteach some things that I thought I didn't teach very well. Just to give them what I thought that they needed. Because I always envisioned, well, what if it was my kids in this class, or your kids, or somebody's kids that I knew? You know, I take the whole teaching thing pretty seriously. So, you know, did a lot of that. And then kind of as the school year went along, it got better and better. Got a little bit more comfortable with the technology, and finally got everything loaded into the program that the school was using. And yeah, made it through that school year. Not stress-free, because the school became very militant about all these supposed, and I'll say quote-unquote, safety measures.
Yeah.
And the problem with our program was they were requiring all the students to wear masks in addition to the safety glasses. And the problem that we ran into was students going on to power tools and their safety glasses fogging up. So the rule in my class was that if you went to a power tool and your safety glasses were fogging up, you'd pull the mask down to make those cuts safely. And then once you're done, you could pull them up. Well, the school decided that that wasn't a good idea, and their quote-unquote health and safety people would come around. If they saw a student with the mask down, they would come into your class and throw them out.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was really offended by that, because they've hired me to be a professional in that area, and I'm making a professional judgment about what is in the best interests of my students. What's the safest way to do this? And yeah, I understand COVID is really bad for some people, but I just got to the point, I said, well, what's worse, COVID or cutting your fingers off? So finally I told these health people that if you're going to throw the students out, you're going to throw me out, because I'm the one directing them to do it. And if you're going to throw me out, then you can throw the whole class out, because they can't be here without me.
Yep.
And they didn't like that very much.
What?
I know.
Causing ripples.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. It's a complete and utter power move on their behalf, in my view. And
Yep.
again, I'm going to do what's in what I think is the safest for my students. And that's how I approached it. I didn't make any friends. I made a lot of enemies. I don't really care. It's in the 4.5 years that I was there, I did not have anybody suffer a significant injury, which I'm very happy about. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd take that same path. Now, you get back to June 2021, and the school, because they love me so much, they lay me off again. Which is fine, because
you can feel the love, right?
I can feel the love. It's just like, I love you too. I love you too. Where's the hugs? Where's the group hugs and the kumbaya around the fire, kids?
You're in the wrong classroom.
Well, and again, as well as anybody, it's all in the perspective. So they laid me off. So we had the bees. We were growing the bees. So I just went back to beekeeping all summer, and again, September 2021 shows up. They hire me back the day before school starts, which I'd kind of anticipated, but this time not as much stress, because I had everything loaded onto the computers and I already knew kind of what I was up. And then once December hits, they imposed a mandatory vaccine mandate on campus. No option for testing, and just because of personal reasons and the want to be able to make a personal medical choice for myself, I decided not to comply with their vaccine mandate. So as of the end of December, they didn't fire me, they put me on an unpaid leave. Now, if anybody knows anything about an unpaid leave, generally unpaid leaves are something that employees take on their own. They say, I won't be coming in, I'm going on an unpaid leave. But the aforementioned school decided that they were going to make that decision for me, and they put me on an unpaid leave, which I'm currently on, and we're still working through some
finer details.
The finer details behind the scenes.
Is it? And so, I mean, you would know. Has there been any change like that? Those mandates were harsh and swift and non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And in Alberta, anyway, as of next week, the provinces actually send out letters to those institutions and saying these are no longer required. You can no longer enforce them, and if you do, it's at your own legal costs. Like, we won't support you in your endeavors.
So they've, without getting into too much detail, they've sent me a letter saying, the mandates ended. Let's just act like nothing happened. Come on back and work for us. Seriously, that's what they said. No hard feelings. Let's all hug, and you just drop all these other little finer details that you implemented behind against the scenes, and we'll just move on like one big happy family. Well,
and is that effective March 1st? If you decided that was a path you wanted to go down, or the end of the school year, or the end of the semester, start of the new semester?
No, they were trying to welcome me back with open arms a week ago.
Wow.
So it's just given how poorly they've treated me over the last couple of years, I've got a hard decision to make. Because I'll be honest, I love the students. I love being around the young people that I get. There's a lot of really, really bright young people. But the politics and the BS from the administration and my supervisors, I'm not sure if it's something that I want to continue on.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the decision, right? It's not whether you like the trade or the school And in your, I guess we'll, without getting into the details, are those people that run those programs, are they tradesmen
No.
or women? Do they have any experience in those fields?
My dean has no trade experience and no teaching experience.
So is that not the weakest link?
Yep. Yeah, and she's
right?
at the top, and she's making all the decisions. And and don't get me wrong, just because it's a female, it could be a male with the same qualifications, and I'd say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And the associate dean, I think he's a refrigeration mechanic, but he's never taught. So for them to be making decisions about items that impact me on a day-to-day basis in the classroom, I'm not sure how they make them without having been there. It would be like me making a decision about you going to do a commercial plumbing repair, having never done it before, never been there.
Yeah, here's the steps you have to follow, Bob, and if you don't follow these steps, you're in violation of our company policies.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And you will be subject to reprimand or termination.
Yep.
And you're
exactly.
like,
well,
I've been doing this for 35 years. I know what I'm doing. I don't need a step-by-step list from Chachi Boy up there.
Well, and this is what I said to them once. I said, so neither of you have taught. I said, what would you do if you were in a junior high school and a grade 8 student came up to you and said, hey, you go F yourself? And then they kept walking down the hallway, and they're like, well, that had never happened. I said, actually, it does. It happened to me quite a few times when I was in junior high.
Yeah.
But they don't have that experience to relate to go, well, this is how you deal with a situation like this.
No.
And here's another thing. So, and there's always students that stick out in my mind. So I had a gentleman in my class, Ethiopian gentleman, probably late 40s, early 50s, and I got chatting because I like to find out a little bit about all my students. He was from Ethiopia. He was a school teacher in Ethiopia. When the regime in Ethiopia fell to civil war, he became a refugee. He went to Turkey, and he spent 8.5 years in a refugee camp in Turkey.
Wow.
Then he, finally gets granted asylum or some sort of refugee status in Canada. He comes to Canada. Obviously, his teaching credentials, the government here, for whatever reason, won't recognize. So he decides that he's going to become a carpenter because he did a bit of carpentry work at the school, take care of the maintenance and whatnot. And I get talking to him. And English isn't his first language, and he always would come and say, I just need some more time on my exams because I need more time to process what these words mean. And I freely would grant him that time.
Yeah.
Because the man was brilliant. He could build like there was no tomorrow. He was dedicated. He put in the time and effort, but all he needed was a little bit more time. And there were colleagues and, administrators that said, you can't do that. You can't give him more time. And I wholeheartedly disagree with it because time should not be one of the issues that prevents somebody from moving forward, because learning a new language is just like you and I learning a new skill. We get better with it with time. And to hear them
Can you imagine going to Turkey and trying to learn Turkish?
Exactly.
I don't know what. Trying to be a plumber in Turkey?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
right?
And not only that, how many of us do you think could live for 8.5 years in a refugee camp with 300,000 other people? The middle of the desert in a tent.
Right.
A student like that, I'm going to give them my full attention. I'm going to help them out any way that I can. Because all they need is a little hand up.
Yeah.
They just need a little bit of help, somebody to believe in them.
Well, and I think that's the issue, not just in the trade world, but, in society. Oh, so I thought I upgraded this, Stevie. So it's going to kick me off in 23 seconds.
Yep.
Because we made it our hour. And so everybody that's watching this, it's going to end this. Supposedly the update says I could go for 4, but it's technology. So it's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm going to restart.
Okay, sorry about that. I got to figure out. I thought I updated everything so that it would be supposedly the new update lets you do it for 4 hours.
At least do it right. So anyway, do I have to invite you again? Oh, there we go. There we go. I'll work on that this week. Figure out how to not be interrupted an hour in. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we have worldwide is the disconnect between academia and the real world.
Absolutely.
Right? These guys are, without getting myself canceled, most of what's happened in the last couple of years has been based on computer models.
Yep.
And book reading, and not that those things are bad, but how those things trump the real world.
Well,
and
I think education in general is 20 years behind.
Yeah.
Because when you and I went to school, we did not have the power of all this information at our fingertips.
Yep.
So what I dislike is this continued view in schools that, well, we need to get students to memorize all this stuff. Memorization is gone. It's useless. Why do we need to force them to memorize when, and here's a perfect example. Well, if I need to know the area of a circle, I don't go, geez, I wish I would have paid more attention in Roscoe's class and memorize. I wish I would have had that tattooed on my arm. No, yeah. You go to your phone, you type it in, area of a circle, and it gives you the formula. So what we need to be doing is teaching students how to use that information and how to find it, not memorize it. Like, come on.
Well, there's that meme that's gone around for a decade or more. Like, my math teacher lied to me. Like, you won't always have a calculator on you. I'm like, actually, not only do I have a calculator, but I have, every physics, math, chemistry formula known to man on my phone.
Exactly.
Like when I try and do some, BTU calculation. I don't have any of that stuff in my head. I press my little thing, punch in the numbers I want. I mean, I know how to do the numbers and what I'm looking for. I put them in the right order and it gives me the information I need. So I agree with you.
Well, and even code requirements. Well, if you need to know the code, you go onto your phone and you search the code book on your phone. That's all you need to do now.
I've had those intense conversations with my inspectors. We're like, this is wrong. I'm like, no, it's not. Here's the code right here. Well, I interpret it this way. I'm like, well, I interpret it this way.
Yep.
And if you go to subclause D, my interpretation is right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to have to think about that. Yeah, you think about it and figure out how you can come back and tell me that you're going to allow me because you're right.
Yep.
It was your idea. Then we'll move on with our lives, right?
Exactly. And that's one of the problems with the code is that it's not a black and white document. It's open to interpretation. And I think these inspectors,
and frankly, the minimum, right? It's the minimum.
Exactly. And I always told students that, you hear all these commercials on TV about, well, from my end, these building companies, we build to the building code. Well, like, why are you celebrating?
Why are you bragging about that, man? That's terrible.
Well, you might want to build a little bit better than the minimum standards. Like, I'm not your PR department, but, why don't you say we're going to build above and beyond the building code standards?
Yeah. But
what do I know? I'm still out of the world because I'm on an unpaid holiday, Bob. So
How is that unpaid holiday going for you? How come you're not in Cuba?
Wonderful.
Oh, wait, right.
Yeah, it's
We're
wonderful.
we're now in the regime of Canada.
Exactly.
So, and that goes to vote. The Parliament votes on Monday, and then the Senate has to vote, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think that's going to pass. And
I hope
I think JT's done in the next couple of weeks. I have said that for a couple of weeks now. He's hiding better than I thought he would, but
you know, Maureen and I went down to the rally yesterday. It was huge. We walked. We probably did half the walk with them down the streets, and there are a lot of people that are upset. And you know what really bugs me is how our national media spins it to say it's all of us so-called anti-vaxxers, or and it's never been about that. My issue with the school that I worked for was never that. It was, I want the freedom to choose what goes to my own body.
Yeah,
that's all I wanted. And I've got friends. They've taken the shot. We're still friends. We still talk. I actually went over to a friend. He had the shot. I went and helped him install some newel posts for his stairwell last weekend. Him and I don't have a problem. It's, we get along quite well. There's differences of opinion. That's all it is.
Yep.
But, the way the media is spinning it, and the fact that, a government is bringing out military force to crack down on peaceful protesters. Like, I saw a note, like in the 3 weeks I've been there, businesses in Ottawa haven't been so busy. The one guy said it's actually what's probably kept them afloat is all this trucker business. And the fact that the head of government doesn't even come out and meet with them just to have an informal meeting, just say, hey, I'm here, I hear your concerns, we're going to work on your concerns. But it's just mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
No, when you have to actually change the laws of the land in order to make it an unpeaceful protest, that tells you, that's what they've done. That's why it's been there for 3 weeks. What's taking so long? Well, technically, they're not doing anything wrong, so we got to pass some laws and regulations and what's the word? Injunctions, so that they're now breaking the law. But that's the bananas part of it, right?
Well, and I saw a report this morning, I think it was out of the UK. It said, what kind of terrorists, because they were commenting on how Tamara Leach and Chris Barber and Pat King, how they were arrested. They're viewed as terrorists in the, the CBC, CTV, Global, all those people. But the charges against them were conspiracy to commit mischief. Yeah. Well, I don't know too many terrorists that commit mischief. Like,
isn't that your daily plan, Steve? That's almost my. What am I going to do today? I'm going to try and create some mischief.
I'm going to go play knock door ginger on my neighbors and commit a bit of mischief. Like, good Lord. What? I put a bag of burning dog poop on my neighbor's front doorstep. That is mischief. I'm a terrorist, and I'm going to prison for years.
I do think on some level, I've talked about this with others before, that it's actually a good thing. What's happening is it just reveals what, the ultimate intent of those people are.
Yep.
That when they're, that when you're backed into the corner and you're sort of at your last wit, your fight for survival, or your real character comes out, are you gonna? And these guys are like, no, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. And now that all the cards are on the table, like, what else do we do? We're moving forward.
Absolutely.
So,
well, to hear people complain, well, my life, the quality of my life is terrible because I've heard honking horns for 5 hours a day. Really? Well, what do you say? What's happened to the rest of us for the last 23, 24 months.
Yeah.
Like, so what, a honking horn for 2 weeks? Yeah, it's inconvenient, but I don't think it's anything in comparison to those small business owners that have lost their business.
That will never, and you know them, and I know them personally, that will never be back, that have no idea how they're going to make it over the next 4 or 5 years, because their lives have been destroyed.
How they're going to make it, how are they even going to financially recover, let alone how do you mentally and emotionally recover from stuff like that?
I don't know.
Like I wouldn't say I had a bad, I had a rough patch every time I get laid off, and when the latest little incident happened, but I don't put that in comparison to what happened to these small business owners, these gym owners, the restaurant owners, any of these other people. I don't even put myself in that same category, because thankfully, and again, to come full circle, this is where my trade ticket has come in handy, because if I need to, I'll just go start doing something
Start nailing boards together, right?
Yeah, I'll just go terribly nail some boards together and, continue to disappoint people in my life. And life
that's the Ukrainian coming out of you. You've done really good. Keep it, push it back down.
You've known me long enough. You know my secret.
And I'll admit, from my point of view, we have been so slightly affected by this. The beauty of being an independent contractor is you're able to bob and weave with lots of those. The government. I've been doing it for 30 years. The government says this. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that. Oh, you're gonna do that? Okay, I'm doing that. And so we've had the luxury of pretty much doing what we want when we want. So I'm not one of those people that have been, severely affected by what's gone on. But I know those people and their lives. Like my heart bleeds for them.
Yep.
Because what do you do? And there's nothing. Like they say, there's some government programs. Well, those have all dried up for the most part. And it'll be a fascinating decade as we fix this.
Well, and the other with those,
and it doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on. Like there's something that has to be fixed. Like what's happening right now is not a normal course of events.
No, it's I never would have thought in my lifetime I would have seen this. And my grandfather fought in World War II, and I personally, I think he's rolling over in his grave, because he would have been there, and he fought solely so that, his grandson, his great-grandsons could have freedom and choice in their lives. That's why he fought.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is choice.
Yep.
Is what every person in the world should be afforded, the choice. And it doesn't matter what the question is.
Exactly.
I think. And we can, you get into the weeds and people are like, what about this and what about that? I'm like, you should be able to decide what you want to do.
Well, and I'll add to that, people should be able to make their own choice and suffer the consequences of their choices.
Yep.
Regardless of what that choice is. Yep. If you want to, select option A, and you know that the consequences could be this, like if you select that, you can't come back and say, well, this happened to me. Nobody told me about it. Well, you have to educate yourself. You have to do some research. If we're adults, we all have to suffer those consequences. Sometimes they're good consequences. Sometimes they're not so good. And let's go back to beekeeping. The first year that I did beekeeping, the person that I was learning from convinced me, that here's a couple steps we should do. I think these are good. I followed along with them. But knowing what I know now, I know those aren't good decisions to make. But I don't go around bitching and complaining about it. It's just like, well, I did it. I learned from it. Now I know how I want to manage my beehives based on what happened in the past. And I move forward. I learn from it. It's a learning experience.
Those are the best experience. The mistakes you make are the ones that stick with you the most.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Like when I'm working with the boys and I'm like, don't do that. Like, why not? I'm like, trust me, that's going to be really bad. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. Or it's like everything you just spent in the last 2 hours is going to just go up in smoke. And I suspect, I mean, they do what I say at the moment, but sooner or later, they're going to be out on their own, and they're like, my old man, he didn't know what he's talking about, and do it. And
exactly.
Go, dang, he was right.
What would the bearded wonder know anyways?
I don't think I've ever been called that, Steve. But
well,
I'll add that to the list of titles. I need some more titles. Okay, Stevie, a couple questions for you. Anything that I should ask that I'm not smart enough to ask you?
No, I've been quite impressed with the questions you've asked. You've obviously come prepared. It's like being on a Tucker Carlson interview.
I'm not. That's the beauty of this thing, is it's raw and real. It's just whatever comes off my head.
No, and well, before you get into the questions, I got to give you a lot of credit for like continuing to develop your platform and the way you promote the trades. I think you should be commended for that, with all the people, all the attention you get. You know, I know you get a lot of slack from people based on how you do it, but, you know, I give you credit. You usually handle it professionally. I can usually, because I've known you so long, I know when you're wound up, and I usually, you know, send a little note to poke the bear a little bit. But, you know, the fact that you got a platform like this, I was trying to pump my kids up going, you know, I got a gig that's going to be put on Spotify at some point in the future, kid. So I am becoming a big
tomorrow
deal.
Morning.
Exactly. No, and I'll continue to promote this, whether or not people enjoyed what we talked about. I hope they did, because we covered lots of topics going around, and it's always good to chat with you about trades and education and bees, of course. And we'll have to get some bee videos up on your IG page.
We will. Yeah, it's tough to do it in the middle of winter, Steve. Although I put up a story the other day of all of my bees that were still alive.
Nice.
I didn't film the heartbreak of them. Like, oh, that one's dead. That sucks.
Yeah, that's all part of it, though. That's all part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Okay. Well, thanks, Steve.
You
did sidetrack. I wasn't expecting any compliments out of you. I don't usually get those from you.
No, you know, like I said, you and I have been friends for a long time, and we've seen our families grow. And yeah, I'm not nearly as active on social media as you are, because I'm not the media personality, the socialite that you are. I'm just that tall Ukrainian guy that likes to hang out in the shadows of life.
That's Ukrainian again. I got to find some genetics in my background that I can, you know, mount my Storos on. I haven't found those yet. German, English, and Irish.
There you are.
Whatever. Yeah, the trifecta of media savvy. Okay. Serve in heaven or rule in hell?
Heaven. Serve in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always a servant. I like helping people.
There you go. I would agree with that. X-ray vision or super hearing?
X-ray vision, so I can look inside my beehives in the winter to see what's happening.
That is not the answer you would have given in college.
That I would agree with. There would be a different reason why I would have had X-ray vision in university.
Okay, we won't even mention that one. Okay, what could you live without for the rest of your life? TV or junk food?
Both.
You got to pick one.
TV, because I already live without TV.
You do it already? And I already know the answer to this one. Would you rather be popular or smart?
Well,
Is this the one I don't know the answer to?
yeah, I'll take smart. Popularity is it's an opinion, and it doesn't really matter. I'm sure there's a lot of people just like in your shoes, there's a lot of people that already disagree and they don't like me for whatever reason.
Yeah. The popularity is like,
i.e. that aforementioned institution that I used to work for.
the north one or the south one? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's the south one.
All right. Any words of wisdom for us, Stevie Wonder?
Any words of wisdom? Well, I think two things. One, I think you should always believe in yourself, regardless of where you find yourself in life. Because if you don't believe in yourself, I don't think anybody else will. And once you start believing in yourself, I think what you're possible of attaining is unlimited. And that was always a message that I passed on to students, was that, how come I'm believing in you and you can't believe in yourself right now? Yeah. I don't even know you, and I believe in what you're capable of. So I think if you can put that in the mind of a young person, their places they can go in the world are unlimited.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say is, don't be afraid to chase your dreams, regardless of how crazy they may seem or how little interest that maybe the people around you give to it. That if you follow your dreams and you follow your heart, you're always going to be happy. Because 4 years ago, when I told people that I wanted to be a beekeeper, it was nothing but, really? Are you sure you want to get into that? Are you? And
it is true.
If you listen to those voices and those words in your life, I think it's always going to lead to disappointment, because you're going to get to be 80 years old and you're going to question, you're going to go, well, what if I would have tried this, or what if I would have tried that? And even if you try it and it doesn't work out, I don't like to use the word fail, because I don't think there ever is a failure in life. I think, if it doesn't turn out in the way that your mind had imagined it, you're going to have learned so many things from it not happening that it's going to help you when you go to your next dream and you chase your next dream.
Yep.
That to me is huge, because it's like the bees. Well, the first year, geez, I only had one hive live. Well, I could have focused on, geez, these 5 hives died. Well, no, I got excited. I got one hive that lived through the winter.
Yeah.
And then you start this year. Well, now I'm at 42, and I'm like, yeah, this is working. Like, I can do this. I got 42 through the winter now. Yeah. Well, what's it going to look like next year when I get 80 through? It's going to be, then it's going to be, what the hell am I going to do with all these bees? Because I got 80 hives living through.
Exactly right.
But
it never ends, right? Which is good. I think that's the beauty of it. People think the grind just never ends. I'm like, why shouldn't it? Or why should it end? What would you do if it ended? You'd be bored as F.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, last year, obviously, I don't know how many people are watching here that, suffered through the extreme Alberta heat last summer. But when I was, lifting those 70, 75-pound honey boxes and it's 37, 38 degrees outside, I've never been as happy as I've been in my life.
Yep.
Like, you're working hard, but you're working towards something that you want to work towards. And you're overwhelmed with 7,000 pounds of honey, and you're just like, what the hell am I going to do with all this honey? But so rewarding to see your efforts end up in a place that you never ever in your life expected it.
Yeah.
And would I do it again? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Am I taking a big risk financially? Absolutely. But what am I going to sit here and just keep going, well, I should have tried the bees, or I should have tried this, or I should have tried that. I'm like you, a lot of things I've tried, yeah, it's blown up in my face, but oh well, I learned from it.
No, you got stories, right? That's what it's about.
I got tons of stories. Shit, 4 hours isn't long enough for this Spotify podcast.
You think they'd listen for 4 hours?
No.
No, I think it's awesome. I really appreciate you coming on, Stevie. I think, as you know, I think you're a wealth of knowledge. I think that you're a credit to the trade. You're a credit to, this will sound gay, but you're a credit to humanity. And I certainly appreciate your influence in my life. And I hope it continues for another 25 years and then we just die getting stung by bees.
Well, I thank you for those kind words, and those kind words hopefully flow right back at you, because I always appreciate your friendship. I know that if I get into a bind, you're one person that I can call to help me out, and yeah, let's keep these bees going for another 30 years, and maybe we'll both just perish beside our beehives with massive smiles on our face and happy, successful families, and life will move on from there.
Yep, 100%.
And then when we get to heaven, we'll just continue it all over again, brother.
There's new experiences to be had up there, and they won't care if you're Ukrainian. That's not a thing up there.
Well, I just want them to have nice beehives and a nice lathe up there when I get up there.
I'm sure they do. They have the best of everything, man.
I hope so. So, Julie said we should drown in a vat of honey. That's always a possibility, Jules.
If you drop it on your head, 70-pound trip and drop a 70-pound thing on your head.
So I've got to ask you a question.
Oh, that's not how this works, Steve.
Well, it happened last week, 2 weeks ago.
What's up?
What's happening with the Bob and Rob show?
The Bob and Rob show is absolutely a go. We're working out some details without, letting too many things out of the bag. We're, getting some intros done, and like it's gonna be a thing. So I expect it to middle of March.
Nice.
We'll be launching it, and then
nice.
see how long that lasts before the angry mob comes after us.
No, that's like I said before. I think that's awesome that you're going to continue to have these discussions. I love the fact that they are obviously not just centered on the plumbing aspect. Obviously, that's one of your core areas, but the fact that, you were talking solar last weekend, you're talking to the Carpenters this weekend, I think it's great that it's going to be so varied. And can't wait to see where the Bob and Rob show, and hopefully
that'll be completely unscripted. Like there's nothing, like it's just going to be a conversation at the bar is what it's going to be. So we'll see what the hell happens there.
Well, my only request is that at some point, maybe in a year when this thing becomes big, that I get invited onto the Bob and Rob show, because I've got a lifetime of stories I can share on that show.
I've made a promise to myself that if it goes halfway decent, that we'll have the first 10 guests back.
Nice.
Sort of as a reunion tour. So you're like number 6. So my kids, you're like number 5. You're like in the 5. My kids don't want to come back. They lasted 40 minutes, and they're like, we got nothing else to talk about. I'm like, you guys suck.
All right. Well, that means I'm in the top 4. So if a Russian near the top gets thrown out for a doping violation, that means I get a bronze medal.
They're in the medals, baby.
All right.
Who knew that your association with me would be so lucrative? It's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling and beautiful, Mr. Baker.
Yeah, so great. All right. Well, I've exhausted myself, and appreciate it.
How many hives do you think you got left that are living right now?
Two for sure. The ones in the workshop seem to be doing all right. As you know, that was my first year, and I didn't really tend them like I should have. So got some work. As you know, I have some work to do. 3 or 4 for sure, and then we'll see where it goes.
Nice.
We'll see what this is. I fed them all last week.
Yep.
So, like
Perfect.
you say, just sort of do your thing and please live, you little buggers.
Lots of this.
Yeah. So, as you know, you don't know until like the 1st of April when the weather finally clears up and
Yep.
you open it up and see what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, brother. We will chat very soon. I'll give you a call.
Right.
We should go for lunch this week now that we're,
Now that I have some free time on my hands.
yeah. I may not. It's supposed to be minus 30 this week, so it could be a bit busy. But
Yeah,
anyway.
we'll touch base. We'll figure it out. I know where to find you.
Yes, you do.
Well, thank you so much for the invite and the opportunity to chat with you, my friend.
You're welcome. I appreciate you coming on.
And hi to all the Instagram viewers. I wasn't going to come on with some really bad jokes like, good morning, caller. But, only old guys like you and I would understand that. So.
I was going to say, who would get that now? No one. Anyway, keep working on it, Stevie.
I'll keep trying.
All right, my man.
Okay, take care, brother.
Behave yourself. Thank you.
See ya.
Out.